Here it is. Here's my book with my markers, got some earmarks, and sadly and joyfully, we are at the very last waning moments of CIFF streams, so you still have time. 11:59 this evening, the film festival will conclude. So that's your not quite 12-hour heads up to see as many movies as you can. Very excited here for the conversation with Patrick, Holley, and Chann. Before I turn it over to our president and CEO, Marianne Crossley, to provide a proper introduction, a few housekeeping items before we begin. Note, we will be recording, we are recording this conversation. It'll be posted online afterwards. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And upon coming into the Zoom session here, you have been muted. This is done just to help reduce some background noise while the speakers are having a conversation. The video, to increase the engagement, if you're able to click on your video screen so that we see more than just your name, that would be great. And while you're futzing around, go ahead and change your name if you need to. Update it, that helps with some engagement. There's 3 little dots that you can right click on that and rename yourself. This allows everyone to know who's on board and commenting and asking questions in the chat. If you want to adjust your view in the upper right-hand corner of Zoom, there's a function where you can toggle between gallery view, which is the multiple blocks, and then the speaker view, which highlights whomever is speaking. We will have an opportunity after some excellent conversation for some Q&A. Go ahead and please send those along in the chat function, and we will weave those in toward the end of our conversation. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Marianne Crossley, who can introduce our speakers. Hi, Marianne.
Thanks so much, Bob, and thanks to everybody for joining us this afternoon. For those of you who have been frequent participants, it's good to have you back, and we also welcome those who are new. First, let me give you an introduction of the folks who will be guiding our conversation today. We welcome back for the second day in a row, Patrick Shepard, Associate Director of the Cleveland International Film Festival. Applause all around. Patrick has been with the film festival for 22 years. He is currently in Leadership Cleveland 2020 and is a proud alum of Bridge Builders 2003. Let me add that his board chair, Chris Blake, also an alum of Bridge Builders and Leadership Cleveland, is with us today. And the star of yesterday's noontime show, Hillary Batchelder, creator of Represent, is with us again. So, and let me extend a very, very warm welcome and gratitude for making time to join us to Holley Fowler Martens and Chann Spellman, Chann Fowler Spellman. And Holley is, both of course are on the board of the Fowler Foundation, and both are very involved with the Matriots, which is a nonpartisan political action committee out of Columbus, and with a mission to elect more women to Ohio public office and create a better environment in which women in our state can thrive and prosper. And the Fowler Family Foundation is committed to improving the lives of residents of Northeast Ohio through supportive programs working to transform lives in education, healthcare, and the arts. We are thrilled and honored to have both of you with us today, and we look forward to an exciting conversation about the arts, the film festival, the Matriots, and our current environment. So with that, welcome, Patrick, take it away.
I think that Chann and Holley are gonna lead off with a general perspective of the arts community based on what we're all going through, and then I'll talk about the film festival as a case study. So go for it.
Thanks, and thank you for that introduction. I was just going to describe to everybody that since 2012, we've been our responsive grant making program model, and Marianne, you did a wonderful introduction of what we fund. So I'm going to let Chann is going to get a little bit deeper into the weeds about our arts program area. So thanks.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everyone. Nice to meet some of you and see familiar faces as well. We have really enjoyed working with so many arts partners in Cleveland, and we know what a difference it makes. I can't imagine what Cleveland would be like without the arts organizations. I mean, that's why a lot of us are living here in this part of the country, because of the depth and breadth of arts programming and offerings for everybody. Generally, we have funded programs, projects, and also general operating for all sorts of arts organizations that work in a school, that public arts, kind of you name it, we're kind of involved. Theater, music, all of it. We love it all. And we are really concerned about our arts organizations during this time, and are really trying to think of ways that we can advocate for arts organizations. We're working with Arts Cleveland, and I don't know if many of you know Megan Van Voorhees. She's gathering lots of data for us nationally that we're trying to help inform us and figure out ways to bolster this segment of the nonprofit world. And because we want them to be here when this is quote unquote over, we need those organizations to be here so that our society and our culture here is still rich with all that. So we're learning right now and trying to react, but we have a long way to go. Obviously, a lot of the things that are still up in the air is what's going to be allowed to go on this summer. So we're kind of waiting with everybody else to figure out how best to support these nonprofits.
Okay, Holly, I think you might still be muted.
Chann, do you want to talk a little bit about the We Care for CLE or some of the other things that you know of in response to the COVID that is happening?
No, I'm just listening to it.
Sure. So Marianne Crowley is familiar with this because the Cleveland Leadership Center is one of our community partners involved with an initiative that we've started with Social Venture Partners Cleveland. They were able to get their hands on a website platform called, and we're calling it wecareforcle.org. And this was brought to Cleveland through a Social Venture Partner affiliate in Cincinnati. He started an organization called Inspiring Service, and it's a platform that allows for all sorts of things that have to do with nonprofits, including volunteer opportunities, donating money. They have a bigger platform that even includes board matching and capacity building projects and things like that. But for the COVID response, they have created this platform just for the COVID crisis and nonprofits, and are offering it to any community who wants to bring it to life in their community. So we are doing that with Social Venture Partners and Cleveland Leadership Center and Cleveland Greater Volunteers and United Black Fund, and I'm missing some other ones, but we have Philanthropy Ohio is one. So we're trying to get all of our nonprofit organizations to input their data on COVID-related losses and COVID-related response, so that we can get real-time data on how this is impacting nonprofits in our community. So the more, and it allows nonprofits to upload financial impact, volunteer opportunities, stories related to COVID. And it's a really, really easy template kind of interface to use. So we're really excited about it, and hoping that, you know, as many nonprofits that can are able to get their information in there, because then we can release it to the general public so that the general public can see the impact COVID is having on nonprofits, and realizing that, you know, if we want these nonprofits to be there in, you know, a year from now, they need some support. So we're pretty excited about this. We think it's really powerful, and we're looking forward to getting even more folks involved in it.
Yeah, thank you, Cleveland Leadership Center for being a valued partner in that one. And I know we're here to talk about CIFF streams and the great work as a non-for-profit that it does. I think CIFF Streams is a really good example of, in just a matter of a few weeks, has morphed into or evolved into something that we can all still enjoy during our stay-at-home orders. There are a few other arts organizations that have been able to react quickly. I think CIFF Streams is the epitome or the perfect example of that. And so, Patrick, do you want to talk a little bit about how your chronology of creating the streams part of CIFF?
Yes, thank you, Holly. And it's been a very interesting 7 weeks, shall we say. And let me preface this story by saying that we at the film festival, the board and the staff, cannot believe our great fortune that our art form is film. And film is an art form that you can put on a digital platform and in a relatively quick manner. So not all arts organizations are in the same space we are. I really empathize with many performing arts organizations that are really, like us, going to need to figure out a new business model, but they might have a bit of a steeper hill to climb than we do, although it's so difficult to tell what the future may bring at this point. But let me just walk you through what the film festival story is for the last 7 weeks. Mary Ann mentioned that Chris Blake, our board president and Leadership Cleveland 2018 alum, is on the call with us, and Chris and I stood alongside Marcy Goodman, our executive director, and Mayor Frank Jackson in the Red Room at Cleveland City Hall on the afternoon of Wednesday, March 11th. Coincidentally, we were also standing aside the organizers of the St. Patrick's Day Parade and a variety of other community leaders when the mayor announced that both the parade and the festival would be canceled. And boy, was that a body blow for the staff and the board of the organization. And it took a couple days for us to get back up on our feet and pivot. But the following Wednesday, a lot of Wednesdays in this chronology. So that was Wednesday, March 11th. Wednesday, March 18th, we had a previously scheduled meeting of our board of directors at which the staff proposed CIF 44 streams. And that was a time when you really were cautious about spending any single penny, let alone launching a brand new program that we had never launched before. But much to the credit of Chris and his fellow board members, they immediately embraced it. They opened up their wallets and they funded it on their own to make sure that this could happen. So that it was the following Wednesday, March 25th, when we announced an overall CIF 44 reinvented program. And there were many elements to this, and CIF 44 streams was certainly the anchor. We, at that time, did not announce the launch date of CIF 44 streams because, quite frankly, we didn't know yet. We were still very busy building it out. But we did do a variety of things on that Wednesday, March 25th, which would have been our original opening night for the 44th Cleveland International Film Festival. So, of course, like all arts organizations, like all nonprofit organizations, like all businesses, we are facing financial challenges that we've never faced before. I mean, as it was said towards the top, I've been around for 22 years. I've never seen anything like this, and we're still trying to navigate through the financial challenges. So of course we launched our annual challenge match, asking for community support for donations to the festival on that day. We had already purchased pretty much all of our merchandise, so it was sitting on our shelves. Of course, we're going to try to sell it, and We spun it as these are collector's items. This is the festival that did not take place in person. We don't have any SIF 44 streams merchandise. Maybe we should think about that, but we need to sell all the existing merchandise before we even cross that path. Something that a lot of people have been asking for years, but we had never figured out how to do it. But we announced on that day SIF alum streams. So for the last several festivals, you can now go to our website and you can find festival films if they are currently streaming on other platforms. Like, you know, Netflix and Amazon Prime Video are among the most obvious of those, but there are also platforms that I'm becoming more familiar with, like Canopy, and Canopy is with a K, and that's in fact free, and it's connected to so many library cards and library systems in the region. So you can see films for free if you just go and sort by that particular platform. So SIF alum streams was a big part of that. And then we did release our trailer online, which we heard some music from that at the top of the program. But of course, going back to the anchors, SIF 44 streams, which on Friday, April 10th, that's when we announced that SIF 44 streams would launch on Wednesday, April 15th. We wanted to be very mindful of the fact that that many people were struggling financially. So we essentially cut our ticket price in half. Normally a festival ticket price for a screening is $16. It was $8 for the virtual version. And there are many membership levels at lofty amounts to offer all access to the regular festival. But we decided to go with a $75 membership level for all access for the 2 weeks of the program. And you know, as it was mentioned, we're on the final day of SIF 44 streams, and hopefully we'll have some fun numbers to announce tomorrow. But I can tell you that the community has been very supportive. For us, it was launching a brand new program. We had never done anything quite like this before. We were able to identify a partner quickly that could host these streaming films, and we worked with our longtime web developer to plug into that so the e-commerce would work. So there were so many moving parts to it, and it was as I know many people are talking about in these uncertain times. SIF 44 reinvented and SIF 44 streams were and are the result of innovation in the midst of this uncertainty and crisis. And I just again feel so fortunate that our art form is film, because I think a lot of arts organizations don't have the same ability to be as nimble as we were. And Chann, I know you work with Progressive Arts Alliance. You're on the board there. Do you want to talk about that organization's perspective?
Sure. And I'm really excited that CIFF was able to, offer something in place of going downtown to see all the films. It really made my last 10 days much more enjoyable than they would have been. So thank you for that. It made me realize that definitely some arts organizations are more apt to be able to go online. But I also appreciate the fact that you didn't do it for free, that that artists' work is worth money to be able to enjoy. And I worry a little bit about everyone jumping on the digital platform wagon and just offering everything for free right away, because I think the journalism, I think, maybe made that mistake early on, and I think that we have to be really smart about that. So I'm glad that CIFF lowered their price, but I'm glad that they didn't just do it for free. Organizations like Progressive Arts Alliance, who works in the schools primarily with kids, it's like such an important part of the kids' day, and now not too sure about how that's going to look in the future. So, a lot of these arts organizations we're hearing from, have applied for the payroll protection plan. Some of them have gotten them, and some haven't. And I think that's going to be a big differentiator on who's going to be here a year from now, unfortunately.
I mean, I do want to offer public thanks to Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, the county funder for arts organizations, and they essentially expedited all the payments for our 2020 grant year, and the entire payment is now in our bank account, and we normally wouldn't see all of it until January or February of next year. So I'm glad that the public entities are being nimble. We as well applied for the payroll protection program with the help of our longtime partner Dollar Bank, and I'm pleased to say that went through successfully. The Ohio Arts Council, Donna Collins, the executive director there, she is doing everything she can to ensure that arts organizations are getting the state funding, because cash flow is an issue, of course. And I mean, for us, we were just at the very beginning of ticket sales, which is one of our primary revenue generators. So we had all these sunken costs that we could not recover, and we had all of this income that we could no longer anticipate. So having public entities like Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, like the Ohio Arts Council, and the NEA, I believe, is working very hard as well on the federal level. So all very important partners along the way.
That's great. Thanks for this great conversation. I know I've got a good series of questions coming in, and this is just a reminder to everyone listening. If you do have a question, go ahead and send those to me via chat, and we can work those in. As you're having this conversation about the different types of arts organizations that are impacted and what this looks like, I'm seeing down on my screen Megan Rich with the Museum of Contemporary Art with MoCA Cleveland, and wanted to invite her just to say a couple words about how that organization is adjusting right now. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Holly. Hi, Chann. So nice to see everyone. Some of my LC20 compatriots. I just want to also shout out to the Film Fest and to Stami Paul of Graffiti Heart. We actually last night just did a film festival conversation with the director of the film Martha, A Picture Story, Selena Miles. It was a really great opportunity. Selena's based in Australia. And this is an instance of where virtual programming provides space for opportunities that we may not have otherwise done. Selena's so far away, but we were able in the course of a few days to organize a really meaningful conversation about that film, which centers on the photography of graffiti by Martha Cooper. Yeah, this has been quite an interesting last 7 weeks. MoCA closed to the public on March 16th, following the changes that were happening. The film festival's closure was substantially impactful to our staff and to our understanding of the severity of the situation on the cultural community in Cleveland. It really was one of the most important things that happened that week prior to our deciding to close, when we were like, oh, this is serious. And it's been quite a ride since then. We've had to, like all organizations, shift our programming to a virtual space, which is interesting and challenging. We have a modestly sized staff, but everyone is really adapting well and has already been creative in launching some new opportunities. Our museum focuses on art and artists and ideas, and so a lot of our work right now has been to think about how we can deploy our resources to programming that can support artists, especially artists in our community, and even those closest to our fold, who are extremely impacted negatively by this situation right now. And that includes artists who serve on our preparatory team for the exhibitions. We've had to cancel our summer season, so we will not be doing that installation, which is weeks of pay for some artists who rely on that. And we've created very interesting ways to deploy our front of house staff who otherwise don't have, the work that they do is with our visitors. So we're creating opportunities for them to connect with our members and to do some of the same engagement work. And now we're in the space of trying to understand what reentry looks like, what it means to serve and support audiences in a new way through physical distancing. But I think what is exciting about this opportunity is it has opened up the doors for us to think about how virtual programming can continue to be an effective tool even beyond this point. And we're also having some really important conversations about the audiences in Cleveland who do not have access to the internet. And there are thousands and thousands of people in Cleveland who do not have access to this programming. And so we are also thinking about how we can create engagement strategies that deliver to their homes art making experiences and experiences to connect with culture, so that not everything we're doing is focused strictly on the virtual realm.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Thanks for your work. I didn't know, Patrick or Holley or Chann, if you had anything you wanted to add to what Megan said or respond to that. And if not, I can move along to some questions.
Yeah, I do want to thank Megan and Stami for last night's Q&A. See, that's something that, since we had to furlough pretty much our entire seasonal staff, the full-time staff is pretty much focused on the production of SIF 44 streams through tonight, and we just did not have the bandwidth to engage the filmmakers as we always do. And that is actually a critical part of a film festival, is that filmmaker engagement with the audiences. And I'm so pleased and so fortunate that Mocha and Graffiti Heart came together for last night. And Megan, I'll tell you, and I called you after last night, but to me, the way that Mocha provided the digital platform to make all that happen, and watching Stami moderate it, I mean, that is the gold standard on how to do that. And we didn't know that 24 hours ago. So it's this whole innovation in the midst of crisis that we're all learning from each other. And to me, there's a little bit of a Leadership Cleveland 2020 success story, because you had 3 people in the class working together to make that happen. I see that Karen Long is also on the line here. And Karen, I also want to thank you, because she and her team, Tara Jefferson, interviewed the filmmaker for We Are the Radical Monarchs. So they've posted something, so additional filmmaker engagement. And I don't want to go through the whole list, because there are so many people that have helped make that happen, but those are just a couple of examples that I think are worth sharing. And I'll also just pivot and say that our business model is changing. I mean, we never thought that streaming films would be a part of our world 2 months ago, and now we're fairly certain that it's part of our future. We just don't know how, and we have to explore for the next 11 months to figure out what that's going to be.
Yeah, that's great. And, actually just picking up on the comment you made about the access to the filmmakers and the directors, the conversation that you had yesterday with Hillary Batchelder, who's on the call with us, with her debut feature. And I just wanted to actually just pause a moment and acknowledge that film Represent, that follow. You can still watch that until 11:59 this evening. Follows 3 women running for office. And, Holley, just want to make the connection here with your work, Chann, as well. But Holley, you're on the board of the Matriots, that in Marianne's introduction recognized as a nonpartisan PAC, and just thought you might just share a couple words about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Hillary, I loved the film. In particular, the one woman that you highlighted from Licking County in our state of Ohio. And Cleveland Leadership Center is, I think, next fall going to start the Ready to Run program, which is going to help women learn how to support them in running for office. And that kind of program, among a few others in the state, is a really nice partner of the Matriots. The Matriots PAC is simply endorsing, funding, and supporting women that are running for office. And we did a study in 2018 there, which was the first time in Ohio there was a measurement on gender in representation, and 29% of all elected offices, this goes from school board to the governor in Ohio, are held by women. And that is a very, and only 150 women served in the Ohio legislature since 1922. So Hillary, I can't tell you how important films like yours are, and how important it is that we we all need to start having equal representation. So, and the Matriots, I think, was a sponsor for your film. So anyway, thank you for the shout out, and check it out.
I think it's just a great example of how art is so important to our culture. And Hillary's storytelling of these three brave women in three different campaigns in three different states, one in a rural setting, one in a suburban setting, one in Detroit, Michigan, in an urban setting, Democrat and Republican, just at a very grassroots level. I've never seen a film like it, and it's just an extraordinary piece of work. And again, that just ties into the whole importance of arts to our community.
It really does, and for everyone on the call, we'll include some information on the Matriots organization in our follow-up email. And you're right, Patrick. The arts can teach. The arts can educate us and inspire us, and the arts can heal us with a restorative power. And as a vocalist myself, as a singer, I know how music has the ability to bring people together in important ways. Chann and Holley, every other year, I look forward to joining your dad, Chuck Fowler, on stage for the biennial Sing Out, which is an event in support of the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. And that event was to take place in June, like many others, has been canceled or postponed to a future date. And just to start with some questions here, in what ways do you see the arts bringing us all together to heal us once we've emerged from this moment?
Well, I think that it's going to be our saving grace. I mean, it allows for us to process those human part of our lives that are not captured by any other way, and it will allow us to feel and to be able to experience some of these crazy feelings that we're all going to have now and later. And I think without music and dance and theater to help us through that is unimaginable to me. Relating back to the Matriots, I hope that a lot of female artists will end up running for office, because we need more creative art people, government too. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, and going back with the healing power of art, we fund not a lot, but some art therapy programs. And with my social work background, having done a little bit of art therapy with some of clients, it is transformative. And the way that art can help heal trauma and PTSD it's fascinating. And even now that we're all sheltering in place, perhaps if you're all inclined to do some of your own art projects, it's pretty soothing. And I don't know, I think there's a place, art has a place, I think, in all aspects of life. And
I think it's worth mentioning how special Cleveland is in terms of the arts and cultural community. I mean, part of this starts with all that steel and oil money of the late 19th and early 20th century that helped create some of the big institutions and the big foundations that have made arts and culture possible. And in many ways, I mean, the Cleveland Foundation and the Gunn Foundation, two great women, Kathleen Cerveni and Dina Epstein, came together alongside Dave Bergholtz and Steve Minter, and then Dave Abbott and Ron Richard, to help forge the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture program that I referenced earlier. And we have one of the largest funding agencies for arts and culture in the country, thanks to the great leadership and foundations in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question that came across is, what can we do as individuals to support the arts when they cannot deliver services as they normally do? I think we've heard a lot of great examples of some pivoting in just different ways going about it, but there are many organizations that you referenced that are unable to provide the services that they do. And can you just share some insight on things that we can do as individuals to assist right now?
Go
Well, I'm not sure if I have a good answer to that. I think donating to them is important. Letting them know you miss them and appreciate them and look forward to seeing them in the future, will be a very helpful thing. And then if there's any kind of volunteer opportunities that can be had either virtually or, safe distancing wise. And again, that wecareforclee.org website can help facilitate some of that. So, yeah.
I completely agree with that. Again, all arts organizations, businesses are all facing, 99% of these entities are facing the most significant challenges financially that they've ever faced. So if it's possible, financial support is very needed here at the film festival and all arts organizations in the city. For certain, I certainly echo the volunteering thought, and also just promotion and opportunity to engage. Like, we always find that people don't find out about the film festival by looking at an ad or seeing a social media post. They experience the festival for the first time because somebody else brought them. So bring a friend, bring a family member to experience art, whether it's a film festival film, or whether it's a virtual collection at the Cleveland Museum of Art, or some of the digital programming I've been seeing going on at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. Engage your friends and family and help show them the relevance and importance of arts and culture in Greater Cleveland.
Yeah, so a little introduction to this next question, but I was at an event at MoCA not too long ago, and Megan, I recall you mentioning that there was a point in time in the not too distant past where you waived all your admissions fees, and what you saw from that was pretty significant change in the demographic in terms of your audience. If my memory serves me correct, is that accurate?
When we went free last March, so it's been 1 year. And in doing so, we saw tremendous growth in a lot of audience segments. But one that was particularly important for us was growth in our 44106 audience, and specifically growth of our immediately surrounding neighborhoods, Glenville in particular, and that also is due to some collaborative work that we've been doing with Third Space Action Lab to grow those relationships. So that opportunity, and to be honest, that was really timely for us, because in this pandemic, that earned income was no longer a problem because we didn't have any more ticket sales as part of our, so that was actually a benefit in this moment. But yeah, it has definitely increased the experiences of audiences of color in our museum, but that comes with a lot of responsibility for us to be out in the community, especially right now, since those are some of the communities in Cleveland that are being most poorly impacted by this.
Great. Thanks. And that I think that's important to point out. And I think it's a nice lead into this next question, which Patrick, with SIF streams, as you've been able to analyze and look at some data, if you've been able to analyze and look at it at this point, have you been able to see any trends in terms of new audiences or increasing, just kind of the diversity of your region and what that looks like? Oh, Patrick, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I wish I had more data to
share.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. It's a little early to really have a sense of the data yet. We know that we're reaching people that we have not reached before, but I've not dug into zip codes yet. Honestly, we're just basically working around the clock until 11:59 p.m. To wrap it up. But we will definitely be spending a lot of time looking at not only what the new members that we brought in. I'd like to know if those new members had any contact with us before. We'll find that out, and all these single streaming viewers, what they're looking like, what they're watching. But again, I know I'm a broken record here, but we are going to need to build a new business model for this festival. And while we look forward to next year, we're very sad that we weren't able to celebrate our 30th and final year at Tower City Center. We look forward to moving our permanent home to the second largest performing arts district in the United States at Playhouse Square. But, you know, normally we would know exactly what that's going to look like in size and shape. And right now we're going to be spending a lot of time with our strategic planning committee of our board, with our strategic planning consultants, and a lot of conversation about what the future looks like. And a lot of that data is going to inform those decisions moving forward.
Great, thanks. If you're a savvy listener, that was your third plug to get the rest of the film viewing in by 11:59 this evening. So just as a final question, maybe a way to wrap up, you know, with Holley, Chann, or Patrick to chime in, but, you know, do you think that the current situation is going to, you know, force the merger of some arts nonprofits, or, you know, in what ways, as you've been, you know, with your you know, funding role in the community and great support of the arts, you know, I know something that's really important to your foundation is the relational aspect of, you know, the funder-fundee, you know, conversation and relationship that gets built. And, you know, what have you heard from some of the organizations with which you have an established relationship in terms of, you know, kind of what the future looks like for them?
I think Chann probably has I'll just go really fast. She probably has a lot more examples, but when we mentioned Progressive Arts Alliance earlier, I know that Lake Erie Inc. is another organization that we've been supporting since 2011. And those two entities, there are some commonalities between them. And I know they've been talking even before COVID about how to share some resources and to streamline and make more efficient some of their programming and back office. And so I do think that's on a lot of people's radar, and Chann probably knows a lot more.
Yeah, I do think that, you know, the foundation and world, the philanthropic world, has a bird's eye view of nonprofit landscape that's pretty unique. And I think that we should, you know, use that responsibility to help some organizations post-COVID relook at their business model. As Patrick mentioned, you know, what's the new business model for these organizations? And hopefully we can bring folks together who are serving the same people, working in the same schools, you know, whatever kind of commonality that makes sense to figure out a different model, so that, you know, if this kind of thing happens again, they'll be a little stronger and more resilient to face those. So I think we have a responsibility to help those conversations happen. Not sure how to do it yet, but I think that's important. The one thing I wanted to mention before everyone goes off the phone, the call is, I got some information from Megan Van Voorhees from Arts Cleveland, and in 2018, the creative industries in our region, we had $1.4 billion in sales, which right now, if you think about that per week, is $27 million a week in sales. And we're 7 weeks in, so that is a lot of unrealized sales. It's really frightening. And so I think that the idea that there will be organizations, and it's heartbreaking, and hopefully we can do as much as we can to help, but it's pretty sobering numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for your work in this, and I especially appreciate you tackling that question, you know, from a positive standpoint, and looking at the opportunity and the ways that you can really impact that. So
thank you, Bob. And Patrick and Chris, I want to thank both of you for your leadership and your willingness and your ability to be so innovative and to inspire others to do the same. It's really exemplary, and we're grateful for that.